Coming up next on Artifacts, Phill finds out about ArtsAlive and why it's so alive.
Then we'll talk with a young, aspiring filmmaker who's off to study his craft in gay Paris.
You'll also find out what happened when the Minnesota media arts community got together for a Superpower Summit.
And I'll have a sneak preview of some fabulous summertime events.
On Artifacts, stay with us. I'm Zahn.
And I'm Phill Lindsay, and this is Artifacts, where we talk about the arts and related issues in the Minneapolis area.
Before you meet our first guests from ArtsAlive, we've got a brief clip from one of the films featured in this month's Juneteenth Film Festival at the Walker Arts Center. Presented in 3 parts, Black Notes on Film, International Black Cinema, and an evening of Midwest films, the festival takes place on Wednesdays and Fridays throughout the month of June. If you'd like to know more about the festival, call the Walker for details. Now, here's a clip from a featured Juneteenth film called Invocation. It was directed by local filmmaker Junius Hughes, with choreography by Morris and Emmy Johnson.
I thought that was a beautiful clip from that film, and I hope you get a chance to see more of what was going on. I'm very pleased now to introduce some folks here who are involved with a series of workshops this summer called ArtsAlive. And we have Jill Waterhouse, who's the director of ArtsAlive, and she'll be telling us a little bit more about that in a bit. Sandra Benítez, who is a writer and a co-convener of one of these workshops, and Amy Cordova, who's an artist reaching quite some national repute. Both of these women are very talented, and we're going to meet them and talk about their particular workshop in a bit. Jill, ArtsAlive. It's got an exclamation mark on it. It sounds exciting. And it's statewide, as I understand. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes. ArtsAlive is a program that is funded through the Minnesota Center for Arts Education and the Women's Art Registry of Minnesota. And this year we changed the name to ArtsAlive with an exclamation point so that people would get that sense of enthusiasm and excitement. That was part of the reason why I did that. It was originally called Connections for those people who have taken the workshops before. And essentially what we're offering is 5 workshops in the primarily visual arts, but we also incorporate dance, theater, and a number of other art disciplines, including writing, which is what Sandra's forte is. Basically, the 5 workshops are, one moment here, Bookends and Beginnings, which is a book class that focuses primarily on the content rather than just the structure of books, because we have another workshop that focuses on structure. And that one is June 27th to July 1st. And these run Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3. So they are a full day, week-long workshop.
That sounds intensive. I mean,
yeah, they're very intense. Yeah. And for people that like that kind of experience of coming in and really focusing on something, this is really ideal for them. The second workshop is called Art in a Sense of Place. And I'm very excited about this one. It's the first year we've offered it. And it's basically an environmental workshop which deals with the way that land or your environment defines who you are and the kind of art that you make. And that one is July 11th to the 15th. Then the third workshop is Artist Books, which again is the second book class we offer, and that one focuses primarily on structure. And I will show you
some examples here.
Yes, and I I brought these not because they're the best examples, but because I actually made them and had them available. This is one of the books that I made, and we actually designed the covers in the workshop. This is a hardbound book, and it was the first time I ever made a real book, so I was pretty excited about it. Basically, you just flip through the pages, and these are left with the pages uncut, which is how books were originally made.
Okay.
The second one is a Japanese ledger style. Again, the covers were made by the people in the class. This one was done by me, and then they're hand sewn. These beads are all made from the paper. And this one has Japanese style paper on the inside.
It's wonderful. It's very
Which is really
integrated.
good.
I mean, from the production of
Yeah.
it to the materials and everything.
And I think that's what's exciting about the classes for me, both as a past participant and as the director, is that people really do get a sense of the full scope of what this whole thing is. You're not just talking about, okay, here's how you do a book and you slam it together. It's really going into the history of books and talking about papers and talking about design. And the last two workshops are the Caribbean Festival Arts, which is in Hutchinson. And this is another new one that I'm very excited about. We have two wonderful artists teaching this, and what we're doing is using the Caribbean Festival as a lens through which to look at a small town and say, what is it that you celebrate? What are your traditions? And how can those be exotic? If we look at them through the eyes of another country or another community, suddenly baseball is something really exotic. Or their water festival, or their wheat hole festival.
Actually, in Twin Cities, baseball can be exotic if the Twins are playing. So
Exactly.
That's great.
So the Caribbean one is August 1st to the 5th, and that's in Hutchinson. And the last one is Cuentos, and I won't talk about that because Amy and Sandra will do that.
Okay, well, that's great. Sounds wonderful. If people wanted to get involved, how would they, I mean, besides just watching this show, how would they get involved?
Well, we have a brochure that we send out to individuals. They can either contact me directly, and am I allowed to give my phone number?
Please do.
Okay, it's 339-6011, and if you're calling long distance, that's area code 612. Or they can call WARM, the Women's Art Registry of Minnesota, and that's 612-649-0059.
And you had all that in your head. I'm impressed.
I memorize phone numbers. I'm one of those
That's
strange
great.
people that memorize
Well, now, I
phone
noticed
numbers.
that you described the workshop that these two ladies are leading as Cuentos, but I know that's not the full title, and I'm going to try and get that word out. Recordándonos.
Yes,
Oh.
very
Close. Close enough.
good. Very good.
Can you describe a little bit about what Cuentos is about and what you're working on?
Well, the word cuentos means stories in Spanish, and recordándonos means remembering ourselves. So cuentos recordándonos is stories remembering ourselves. And it is a workshop, and Amy and I are collaborating in that I will be doing the writing portion of the workshop, and Amy will do the visual arts. And through remembering our story, remembering who we are, we then come to the workshop and we put together visual art. Examples are here. And also we do a lot of writing exercises, interviews, visualization, and using the list poem as our primary goal.
Now, in a moment, we're going to take a closer look at what you brought here, these beautiful objects here. But it was interesting what you mentioned about going back into the memories. How do you do that? And what do you hope to get out of that? And then what finally do you put it into what form?
Well, we get to that by doing different techniques such as visualization, and through those we get in touch with just different concepts. It could be recognizing something, an animal in the natural world that is important to us for some reason that seem to follow us through our lives, or it could be memories of an individual, someone who made an impression on us as a young child, or an incident that happened to us as a young child. And it's very interesting because many times people come to this and say, oh, I don't have a story, or there's no one I can think of that really influenced me greatly, but soon it starts to unfold. And
Little do they know there's a lot inside.
yeah, and then once the stories start coming, the stories just
I was going to
flow.
ask, do people ever come up with really major surprises, something that maybe they weren't expecting in kind of a heavy way?
Sometimes that can happen, but most of the time it's through a series of interviews. People the participants in the seminar interview one another and ask specific questions and specific trigger questions. Most of the time it's what it's always is touching and moving, because
Yes.
these are things that impress our hearts. And the word recordar in Spanish, to remember, comes from the Latin recordis, which means to pass back through the heart. So those are the memories that we are eliciting from the participants and from each other, those things that have impressed our heart. And we use them and we show them off not only in writing, but in telling and in visual arts too.
We probably don't have a whole lot more time, but I want to, as long as we're talking about it, can you just tell us in general what we're looking at here, what these are, and how they came about?
Okay. This was the visual component of our workshop, and these are called tesoro boxes, or treasure boxes in English. And they're based on a style of an old Spanish, Mexican, Southwestern America style of the retablo, which is an art form in which events may be recorded, and sometimes text is also recorded to preserve a memory, many times used in healing. And these boxes are much in that same way. The one on the left is the one that I made, and I made it in honor of the animals, and in my text inside I said, "Who will remember the animals?" And then there's a little handmade book with a kind of a speech that an old medicine man gave many years ago about who should protect the animals. But as a child, I realized, looking back at this and doing the writings and doing visualizations, that the world of animals played a really big part in my life as a young child, and from observing them to trying to act like them. And so I just felt a very special connection to animals and dreaming and the creative world that they opened.
Seems I might have seen some images of animals in some of your artwork as well.
Yeah, the animals
Posters and
are always in my artwork.
Yeah.
I feel very
And
strong.
Sandra, you're a writer,
Yes.
and again, you have a wonderful box here as well.
Yes, this retablo, this tesoro box is my effort to keep in memory my book, A Place Where the Sea Remembers, which Amy was the illustrator for. Not the book, she illustrated the book, the jacket cover, and also a small chapbook we did about 3 years ago on the book too. And so that is a sort of memories of the sea and the moon phases, and also the healer woman.
Well, I'm pleased you have. Why don't you hold
Yes.
it up for a second? Maybe
Yeah.
our camera can catch this.
Amy did the, I'll open it up so you can see.
I'll get the
Amy
full
did
thing,
that
yes.
gorgeous cover of the book, and we've collaborated not only with
Hold
this
it there for a
project,
second.
but with other projects as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
knowing you with this project, the Cuentos, if you'd worked together before, and obviously you have.
Yes, we have.
That's great.
We're comadres.
Yeah, so obviously you get along well.
And it shows in their work too. If I may for a minute, Phill, I'd like to brag a little bit about Amy and Sandra. When I took over the directorship of the MAX program last year, one of the things that stunned me was the number of thank you letters that we got from people who took the class, and these were unsolicited. And one of them came from a woman who was in her 70s who said, "I want to thank you for this class. It has changed my life." And I thought, if a class can change your life at 70, that has meaning. That's worth
Well, holds out
something.
some hope for us as we're approaching that age. So that's good. I was going to ask you, what kind of people are coming to take the classes, and where are they from? I mean, who's interested in this?
Well, it's interesting because they're really a wide variety of people, a broad cross-section, if you will. It's anything from 8th through 12th grade students, teachers who teach K through 12, and what we call interested community adults. And that can be a woman in her 20s who says, "I want to try something new," or a woman in her 80s who says it's never too late. And we don't get a lot of men in the class, which is a disappointment to me because it's such an opportunity. The classes are $20 for students and $25 to $50 for adults. It's a sliding fee scale, whatever they can afford.
So you make it pretty accessible, depending
Very
on
accessible.
your situation.
Yeah, if they had to pay for the classes, they'd cost over $300 per person. I mean, if they actually had to pay the cost.
That makes
So they're
sense.
extremely inexpensive, and that includes the materials.
When I was going to say,
Which it includes this retablo, so everybody would be given unfinished retablo to finish. So that's
Excellent.
a wonderful
so
thing.
you really walk away with a
Absolutely.
product,
A
if
memory,
you will.
a real
Yeah.
tangible memory.
Sure. Well, I'm afraid we've run out of time for this. I wish you the best of luck with this particular workshop and ArtsAlive in general.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on the show. And
Thank you.
Maybe we'll get some memories back another time. Thank you
Thank
very
you for
much.
having us.
Thank you.
No, it's a pleasure. And we'll be back in a moment with an aspiring young filmmaker, somebody that we've known on this show for a number of years. But first, let's take a look at this interesting arts factoid. And we're back. Janet's joining me. Of course, Janet, as you know, is our co-host here of Artifacts. And when she had her show, Sound Image, along with Artifacts and many other shows here at City Cable 34, one of the gentlemen that made it happen is Matt Williams, who's our guest. And we wanted to get Matt on this side of the camera because, well, why don't you tell people, you're leaving.
Yep, I'm leaving.
How can you do it?
I'm going to Paris in a month. And I'm applying for film school. And I don't know.
You're making the big leap.
Well, I'm.
Well, it sounds like a leap if you're applying. You're moving there, first of all, and then you're applying?
I'm going to move there. I'm applying for a school, which I'm not sure if I'm going to get into or not, but it's quite a rigorous process to get in. And if it doesn't work out, I'm going to actually live there and teach English. And I'm aspiring to be more on the writing side of working with films.
Okay, tell us a little bit about the school. This, as I understand it, is a pretty well-known school in the industry.
It's probably the most well-known school in France, and it's called FEMI, and it's there the schools are sponsored by the state mostly, and it's an incredible school. It's a 3-year program. There's all kinds of people in the school who actually work in the film industry. There's lectures there by Godard, Louis Malle.
So you're working with some
stuff.
big names who know their stuff here.
Yeah, it's really geared around incorporating the students into the actual professional side. So it's a 3-year program. In the first year, you work with a group and in different areas. Everyone works on all the areas that they teach, and then the second year they try and get you into the doing some internships with some, professional, either television or film.
Well, no, you land in Paris. You go to some apartment somewhere that you hopefully landed in.
Yeah. No, you don't. You go. You start out like even before that. You get there and you get a hotel, and then there's quite a few. I lived there for a year before, so I kind of know like where the networking is going on there. There's a few places that are very. They have bulletin boards, and for mostly, not just Americans, for people from all over the world because it's quite an international city. And you go there, and what I'm looking for specifically is to teach English or tutor, find a family that needs, English lessons for their children.
Some French family interested in English.
Right, and in exchange, hopefully, a lot of times you can they'll supply you with either a room you might live in with them, or they sometimes even have an apartment that they have specifically for that reason.
Isn't this exactly what Valerie Bertinelli's doing?
That's her show, yeah.
That's right. So you're kind of
I
going
tuned
off
into that once, and I thought about that.
That was the inspiration.
Okay, but now this process, I'm very serious, because you're going to go over there, and obviously you're going to be comfortable getting in there. But what is the process to getting into the school? Do you start taking a few classes, you got the application in,
No.
and then they inform you whether you made it or not? Or?
Yeah, the application process takes place over 3 months. And actually, it already started now, and it's 3 months that you need to be there to take some of the examinations that they have. And the first part is an essay, which I'm working on right now, and a film analysis test, which is given in Paris in July. And that's the first part. And the second part is then there's different departments that the school is divided into, and you pick a specific area that you're interested in, which I'm interested in, script writing. And then you take a test in that area, and then another area which they choose. And then after that, they have an interview process. Okay. And it's very competitive and rigorous, I guess. And
well, I would think so, worldwide competition here.
Yeah, well, there's 2 actual contests, and I'm actually in the French contest. Rather than the international contest, which seemed a little bit, for various reasons, since I was going there, it seemed like a better route to go.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about your actual work there, but here at City Cable 34, you've been responsible, and I should say with the help of a lot of other good people here at City Cable 34, for some of the best visuals that I've been proud to be part of. For this show alone, I remember the pieces you did with the State Theater, the Hennepin Center for the Arts, behind the scenes at the Orpheum. We had some fun at St. Thomas with the frescoes that Mark Bauma was putting up there, and on and on. I mean, it was great fun. The Wiseman Museum, which was a really nice piece that just ran last month on Artifacts. But you were good enough, and the crew here, to put together a little reel of some of your promo spots.
I put on the reel mostly the PSAs that I've done here. Well, commercials.
Yeah.
And I think that's more of an opportunity here to do some things a little bit different. So.
Well, let's take a look. Get them up here on the screen and see what Matt Williams has done.
What were you thinking? Some stations try to insult your intelligence. Are they intelligent? Or are they annoying? Intelligent programming about the city you live in.
Sophisticated solutions for sophisticated problems.
Coming from the East Coast, to have someone actually say hi to me on the bus kind of floored me. People have an integrity here and a sense of caring for other people. I think it's real progressive in a lot of ways. Basically, I think that Minneapolis is a really progressive city, and that's why I like it.
If you think this is the only dangerous weapon children can get their hands on, think again. Keep matches and lighters out of the sight and reach of young children. For more information, contact your local fire department.
A child's path is not always easy. For some children, finding the right supports can be a problem. Children with appropriate supports have a greater potential to succeed.
Support community-based children's mental health services. For more information, please call 1-800-528-4511.
I knew it. I was just saying the squirrels at Loring Park.
Yeah, you can recognize those things.
They're human.
They just come right up to you.
Matt, that's real nice work. We're really going to miss you here. Obvious question, you're going off to another continent to study filmmaking, writing, and all that in particular. What's your inspiration? What got you going?
That's a good question. I was thinking about that a little bit earlier. You know, I've been working here for, a little bit over 2 years, and I've gotten experience with just about every aspect of kind of production, and I decided that now it's time to kind of pick an area and try and specialize a little bit. Mm-hmm. And, I'm kind of interested in the kind of love stories.
Was there
I was always like, well, I used to watch the soap operas a lot when I was growing up, and I always thought, like I could jump in now and finish this story, I'd always try and guess what was going on and figure out something else.
So the program will allow you, if you get in to the, past this, the first phases, you'll be able to focus on screenwriting, possibly have some...
Right, and actually, it's more of a group effort the first year, and at the end of the first year, they actually decide what you're going to do. So it's
they help steer you then.
Right.
So
they even if you think you're going this way, and they think you're going to be
so
better
you could
at
end up
something
being
else.
like a continuity editor or something.
Right.
Wow. Best boy. Key grip.
Yeah.
Could be
Well,
anything.
I don't know.
5 years from now, where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing?
5 years from now?
Yeah.
Back here.
Yeah.
Probably.
In the Twin Cities?
Back in the Twin Cities. I really like it here. I love this city. Working on a film.
Good for you.
Doing something.
That's
Yeah,
great.
we'd like to hear that.
Yeah. One of the things you did, which has given me some fun in the last year or so, you turned me on to an author.
Uh-huh.
And what inspired me partly was the name was David Goodis.
Right.
One of those real nitty-gritty, down-in-the-gutter type
Right.
pulp fiction writers of the 30s and 40s, I think.
Yeah.
And you
Actually, a
talked-
screenwriter.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
you talked about kind of the translation from that kind of writing into screen. Who else inspires you?
I'm inspired by kind of Bertolucci and Spike Lee and those guys. They actually, Scorsese, who conceive the ideas themselves, from personal experience.
So
I think.
the artistic expression, or are you talking so much about what those individuals have to say? I mean, the Spike Lees and Bertolucci's.
Yeah, no, what they have to say.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's always something that comes from within, specifically from, biographical, almost autobiographical. David Goodis is really probably my main inspiration right now. And what I like about him is that he's, they're detective stories, but they're kind of really love stories disguised as detective stories, and there's a lot of psychoanalysis involved in those
And
stories.
our audience might recognize at least one film that came out of some of his.
Yeah, many films. Shoot the Piano Player, which is a Francois Truffaut film. I think one called Black Friday, which is an older one, which I haven't seen. I think it was a Bogart film. And he's done some other ones. In that.
Yeah. So although his name may be somewhat obscure to common readers of literature, he's really had an influence on the industry you're trying to get into.
Yeah, and he was really an influence on the French
They got into him big.
filmmakers, In fact, there are books out. There's an autobiography out on him in French that hasn't been translated yet in English.
So
I think they've had much more of appreciation for him. He's
but
almost
you
kind of
know,
forgotten.
They like Jerry Lewis too.
Right.
So be cool now. Be cool. You're going to be over there working on things. You'll probably come back once in a while. Maybe not in these 3 years or so.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
If you're working on something, would you consider sending us a clip once in a while of some of the work in progress of Matt Williams?
Sure.
Yeah, keep us posted.
That'd be
Especially,
great.
sure.
Okay, and I wanted to return the favor. You turned me on to David Goodis, and in reading about him, I heard about this guy, Cornell Woolrich.
All right.
And you might enjoy reading him. Deep, dark, nasty, gutter kind of stuff. Your kind of stuff. You're going to enjoy it. So enjoy. We're going to miss you.
Yeah, good luck to you.
Okay,
I hope it
thank
goes
you.
well.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Oh, your good work. Well, we'll be back in just a moment. Janet's going to come out and talk with some folks about a recent media summit that was held here in the Twin Cities.
That's right.
And we'll be back in a moment after we look at the Artifacts calendar.
This is Artifacts. Earlier this spring, people from all walks of media life got together for the Media Superpower Summit at the Minnesota Film Board. And the meeting was intended to be the start of many such gatherings to examine how media organizations can work together to bring new creative, business, and educational opportunities to this market. The meeting included representatives from 13 different media organizations, including Intermedia Arts, International Television Association, the Independent Feature Project North, the People of Color Task Force, Women in Media Arts, the Association of Independent Commercial Producers, Minneapolis Television Network, the Screenwriters Workshop, the International Teleproduction Society, the Walker Art Center, the Minneapolis Office of Film, Video, and Recording, the Minnesota Film Board, and the Midwest Media Artists Access Center. A lot of organizations are working on media arts in the Twin Cities. And here with me today are two of those people representing a couple of different organizations. Jane Minton-Fors from the Independent Feature Project North, welcome. And Mike Vinup, who is here representing the International Television Association. Mike works for Jenton Video Field and Post, also as in the area of marketing services. Well, I'm just exhausted from reading all those organizations.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, and it's also really an impressive group. And I think one of the ideas behind this whole thing is that people don't know really what's going on in this community as much as they should. And I think, and maybe you can talk to that a little bit, Jane. Tell us what our thinking was there.
Well, we have an impressive array of media arts activities in this area. A lot of people consider Minnesota the north coast of production activity. And a lot of people in the general public aren't aware of this activity. There's a lot of support for the arts, but media arts kind of tends to be considered the poor cousin of a lot of art forms. And it's understandable. It's a newer art form. It's only about 80 years old. And a lot of the activity is experimental and challenging and controversial. But at the same time, it's the most potent form of messaging that we have in the arts today. It reaches the most people, it packs a wallop, and there are individuals who use it for, for great and good things. The first person that comes to mind is Spike Lee with Malcolm X and other films that he's made. We wanted to sort of clarify to the community at large what all these art forms are, and some of them aren't art forms. Some of them are just plain good business, and what impact it has upon our community, the economics of it, the vibrancy of the arts tapestry that we have here, and sort of explain it all. There's writers, there's directors, there's commercials, there's features, what it all is, and who's doing what and when.
Well said. Mike, as a person who's on the business side of this art, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your perspective on the film and video business, the corporate industry, how it has changed maybe over the last 5 years, and what you're seeing, how they're going to move into the future.
I see that the industry's really changed in the last 5 years as far as technology, and in that bringing nonlinear and digital technology, which basically has made the process change from being a real engineering feat to being able to concentrate more on some of the artistic aspects of it. So we're seeing a lot of corporate producers spending more time touchy and feeling their communication piece rather than just trying to get it down and in the can. So that's really been a nice change, and that's every day getting better and better with the new technologies that are coming out. And as far as the marketplace, I really see the marketplace becoming a lot of real friends with each other, where it's not necessarily who your competition is, but they're just other folks doing what you do, and they might be doing something real cool this time, and next month you'll be doing something real cool. And that's a lot of the ways I get back from our creative staff. That's how they view the business. And from the marketing side of it, what we felt is, in the same sense of becoming real friendly, is that your clients, you need to have real strong customer service today, whereas and have real strong relationships with your clients and with your vendors in order to get the job done, where maybe it was a nice thing to have before, it's real a necessity to have today in order to do business.
Jane, how do you see the independent filmmaking community changing or moving into the next, the year 2000?
Well, a lot of things are going to impact independent filmmakers by about 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. The information superhighway is has been paved and is ready to go, and what that means is there's an opportunity out there for many different types of distribution for work. And there are channels out there, super channels, that they're not going to want to have 300 channels of Beverly Hillbillies reruns, and they're going to want some fresh, new, exciting work on those channels. And I think that's a place for independents to plug in. Over the last 10 years, we've seen a lot of opportunities open up, not just for theatrical feature releases, but in television and in cable, and a lot of those companies are paying for independents to put their work on the screens, and it's because they want that alternative voice. I think programs like Twin Peaks and some of the cable movies we've seen lately, like Geronimo, and have really opened up some avenues. People really like to see those new directors and new writers.
And that will continue, I'm sure. I mean, that's just beginning.
Yes.
Just beginning.
And in terms of this area, you know, I think the commercial and the industrial areas in the Twin Cities have really grown, and with that growth there's been the development of a lot of talent in writing, in crews, in producers, directors, and that makes it possible for independents to come in and take advantage of the presence of that talent in this community. Over the last year, I've seen, you know, 5 times as many productions, independent productions, in the last 16 months than in the last 5 years. And to me, that's extremely promising.
I agree. I think that from the commercial and corporate side, I mean, those are the people who have been here the longest, doing the deal for the longest amount of time, and certainly that is now, finally, it's really being reflected in the amount of feature production.
And there's a lot of crossover too. I mean, some people have families to feed and, you know, rent to pay, and they'll have a day job doing commercial work and at night write their screenplay.
So with these changes that are coming that you've described, how do you envision, or what thoughts have you got regarding this media summit? And you know, we have all of these individual groups out there working very hard on specific tasks and trying to keep their market segment smart and savvy and busy. How can all of these groups come together and create something that will help the community as a whole?
What I got out of reading the draft and thinking about it is, it seems to me like one of the goals is to bring in more and more business from national avenues and from even international avenues. And one of the ways that we're doing it at Junton is by hooking up into the information highway, which is almost an overused cliche these days, but hooking into that in the aspect of being online on Vivek's fiber in a national basis, and able to get to a satellite in a moment's notice and bring in and send out messages, either video or audio or graphics or whatever. And the Vivek's, being a Vivek's first video affiliate, what that's done is it's given us contact with other facilities like us around the country, and we're actually a cooperative where we're starting relationships with other field and post houses and other similar organizations that we'll be able to fill each other's needs as they come and as we're going more global. So that's one of the senses, is when a company like us can start doing that and reaching out, we'll be bringing business in to us, which also means people will get to know other things in Minneapolis and other things that are happening, and so that relationship will start to bring forth that.
Right. Well, I think it's, you know, and it's clear that the more people hear about what it is we do and both on the national scale, but also locally. Hopefully that will it will make the business climate warmer, and again allow more independent filmmakers to work as well. I know there were 4 areas that the working groups that came out of the initial meeting, they're going to work on publicity. They're going to be working on the business aspect, actually increasing corporate and commercial business in town. Education, which we could spend a whole half an hour to an hour talking about, because obviously there are changes.
Actually, yeah, I'd like to mention that a little bit. I think as well as just trying to bring awareness and benefit ourselves and make people more aware of what media arts are. There is a core group of the Summit group of people that are working on developing a 4-year degree program in filmmaking, as well as a master's program at one of the state-funded colleges here in Minnesota. And I think that's going to be a real landmark when we get something like that established in the state. Something that we have to prove is that there's a good potential for a career after you get your degree. And so we have to do some research on that and research what kind of a model we would want to establish within an education system. But I'm really hopeful that we can be successful with this, and we're moving fairly quickly on it too.
Well, I want to thank both of you for being here. It was an interesting discussion, albeit too quick, as always, but I appreciate your being here. And if any of you viewers have more questions about the Media Summit, you're willing to call me at my office, the Minneapolis Office of Film, Video, and Recording, and I can connect you to other people who are doing this and interested in it. And it's good work and well worth doing. I appreciate your work on that project. So, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Next up, Phill and his guests are going to bring you the scoop on some exciting summer events taking place here in the Twin Cities this summer. But first, the Midwest Media Artists Access Center is sponsoring a screening of the best of the 32nd Annual Ann Arbor Film Festival, which is the oldest 16mm film festival in the country. The event takes place at 8 p.m. on Friday and Saturday, June 10th and 11th at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design Theater. You can call the Midwest Media Artists Access Center for more information. And now a clip from the show. It's an animated film called Kariba by Leah Beatriz Zaguri.
Well, that was a nice piece of animation, and I think some of us here on the crew were kind of debating whether that was computer generated or the old-fashioned way. We might make that into an Artifacts question sometime. Can you tell the difference? Well, turning now to a guest who called me about one event, I think some weeks ago. Ann Hittler Grover is with the Marketing Source, and she called me about one event, and we got talking about that, and then it turned out she's involved with not one, not two, but 3 festivals coming up next month, July, here in Minneapolis. And so we could kind of call you Ms. Festival for the summer.
You could call me that. I've been called worse things.
Well, we'll stick with Ms. Festival. And just to start outlining, what are the 3 events? And then we have 2 guests here who are part of one of them, and we're going to meet them in a moment.
The first event is something called America Fest. It's an international festival of youth choirs. 4 youth choirs coming from other countries to perform here in the Twin Cities and then tour other places in North America. And it also includes 5 local choirs who are playing the part of homestay hosts. The second event is the opening of the Minnesota Orchestra's 15th anniversary Zomerfest, Viennese Zomerfest, and they are staging a carnival in honor of the festival.
Oh, so a little something special for
Well, because it's the
this
15th anniversary, and they have a new music director, artistic director, David Zinman, and he is a fun-loving, zany, colorful person who thought that this was time to do something very fun and involving for the whole community. So he's building the whole festival around Carnival, and they're going to have an elephant come down Nicollet Mall and a couple of other special surprises. And the third one is something called Youth Arts Fest, first-time event, and it opens the annual block party on Hennepin Avenue, and our other performer guests are a part of that event.
That's right, and we have Tonya McLean, who is an actor, dancer, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then Lisa Myers, and you're another actor and dancer, and you're both part of a troupe here in Minneapolis called what?
American Variety Theater Company.
Okay, and that's up on West Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, North Minneapolis. So you're going to be part of what exactly when this Youth Arts Festival happens? What will they be having you do?
Dancing and doing other dances that we have been doing before.
Okay, so you guys are getting training. I mean, far beyond just this one event. You're getting training in this. What kind of things are you learning?
We learn discipline, we learn dance steps, we learn acting.
Boys and girls in the troupe?
Not very many boys.
That's always true, isn't it? It's hard to get those
Could never
boys
get a
going.
partner.
Yeah. But you guys have fun doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you performed on and off for a long time, or is this new to you?
I performed for a long time, on and off.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how about you?
I've been performing for a while,
Yeah?
off and on.
See, now, to me, at my age, I hear these young ladies say, well, I'm a veteran, I've been doing this, and it's like, I don't know, Moses was young when I started doing this, so. Well, let's talk a little bit more with you guys in a moment. Youth Arts Fest, what was the origin of it, and who's behind it, and what's it part of?
The Minneapolis Downtown Council had the idea of expanding the idea of what happens with Block Party, which is an evening event, lots of entertainers, mostly adult entertainers though, and saying if that worked for adults, what if we did something that focused on youth performers, and drew the best of the performers from the Minneapolis area and put them on a stage and invite families and employees who work downtown and other people who are interested in the arts to come and watch them perform. So they had the concept. They came to me and said, would you help organize it? Then the Aquatennial people said, we would love to do something with that, and we will help promote it and integrate this into our activities. And the City Council also said, we like the idea. The whole thrust is focus on youth, on the diversity of talent in the Twin Cities, and make it a fun event for downtown. So
boy, that's a nice combination of people that are up behind this. I mean, the Aquatennial is a big tradition of 50-plus years, and Downtown Council, that's great.
This is the first time we're doing it. We weren't sure what kind of response we got, and what we found out was there are more youth arts organizations in the cities than you can imagine, and we only had room for about 12 spots this year. It runs from 12 to 6, so every group has about a half hour, including the American Variety Theater
That's great.
Company. And next year we could go twice that long if there was interest.
Physically, where will this be? Where can people come and see Tonya
Exact same
and
place
Lisa?
that the Block Party is. They're using the Block Party stage, sound equipment, parking area. So if you know where the Block Party is on Hennepin Avenue between Target Center and City Center.
Yeah.
Have that right? Yes.
Good old famous Block E there.
Yep, Block E.
Right next to the Hennepin Center for the Arts on the one side and all that. Have you guys ever performed for this big a crowd before?
Only for maybe the competition that we were in for Share the Fun with 4-H. Otherwise, I haven't.
Tonya, you ever been in front of a big audience before?
No, not as big as this.
Sounds like it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Expecting quite a few hundred people to come and watch.
Families and everything. I mean, obviously, American Variety Theater Company will be there, and these guys will be doing great. Any other groups that you can mention that people might find or recognize?
There is a Native American dance group called the Peacemaker Singers, actually a singing group, a Hmong performing group, third and fourth generation Japanese dance group.
Wow.
All of these are based here in the Twin Cities. A group called Pizzazz, which is a dancing and singing group. We have dancing, singing, acting, No Time for Crime, which is
yes.
You probably know about that group.
Yeah.
They many of the groups are performers with a message about inspiring youth, having confidence in yourself, being true to your values and your culture, celebrating the strength of their organization.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
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 That's event number one, as it were, at least in your plate here, Youth Arts Fest, and hopefully this is the first year of something that'll become a tradition. Okay.
And that's the 15th of July.
Of July.
Friday.
Okay, sounds great.
Downtown.
Hennepin Avenue, downtown Minneapolis. Your next event, tell us about that. This is the Summerfest, if we're going chronologically now?
If we're going chronologically backwards, then it's
Oh, we can do that. The magic of television now.
That's right.
All right.
Viennese Sommerfest with David Zinman as
Yeah.
artistic director. They're opening the carnival, or the 15th anniversary, with actually a carnival. Renaissance Festival characters will be coming down and performing on the plaza, doing mime and juggling and the zany sorts of things
Yeah.
they do. The Aqua Jesters, they are the clown group, volunteer clown group
Yep.
that performs with Aquatennial. They'll be there.
They're a lot of fun.
Some youth organizations, family activities, and David Zinman is riding in
And
on.
Zinman is not unfamiliar to Twin Cities audiences.
Well, he did graduate work at University of Minnesota, so he has been back and forth for quite a long time. Performs on the Minnesota Orchestra's subscription season every year,
Right.
and so he already has quite a following.
And now they're letting him loose with Summerfest, and it sounds like he's got a twinkle in his eye and he's ready to do it in a fun way. I mean, for folks who've been down there, there's the food, there's the music, there's that general feeling of being outdoors with
There's a wonderfully festive atmosphere on PV Plaza, and PV Plaza is just outside of Orchestra Hall, so there's all this activity happening outside, and then when the concert begins, everyone can go inside to listen to it, or it's piped outside as well.
Right. And you mentioned that
Many of
maybe
those are broadcast on Minnesota Public Radio, so you can...
Oh, okay. So you could do a simulcast if you wanted to. And you sort of let the elephant out of the bag, but there's going to be an elephant coming down the mall to kind of kick
You'll
this off
have to
or
be
something?
there to get all of the
Okay,
details.
so we can't give you all the scoop here on Artifacts, but needless to say, it's going to happen. And of course, it is a Viennese Summerfest, so the framework for the music.
So if you like Strauss waltzes and very festive, light music, I think you will like Sommerfest. Even people who don't usually go to classical music find that they come to Sommerfest, and much of the music is familiar to them, and it's well loved.
And the festival itself lasts, what, 15 days? I mean, it stretches
It's
out.
a month long.
It's a month long. There you go. Yeah. So it stretches really into early August.
And it opens on my birthday, as a matter of fact. Wasn't this nice of them to throw a
Very
15th
nice of you to
anniversary
have been born in time.
and bring in an elephant to boot?
That's right. You'll be riding the elephant in?
I do ride elephants, but
Do
that's
you
another
really?
story. Yeah,
Okay, we'll have to have you back on to talk about that.
yeah,
Well,
much
that
later
sounds
date.
fun. And for those who aren't familiar with Summerfest, although obviously millions have attended over the years, it's a variety of concerts, inside, outside, day long, into the evening.
It's an annual summer music festival
Right.
with outdoor events and indoor events. Free entertainment on the plaza every noon hour and during the evening. Food, booths.
Yeah, all kind of
Festive
in keeping with the theme, from my recall, the kinds of victuals that they present there. That's great.
And that opens on the 13th of July, Wednesday.
That would be your birthday.
That would be.
That's great. Okay. Now, we've only got a couple minutes left, and I know there's yet another very impressive event that you're part of. Now, going backwards again, this is America Fest?
America Fest. It's an international youth choir tour. There's a choir coming from the Ukraine called the Shedrik Choir, from Israel called the Efrani Choir, and from Finland called the Tapiola Choir. And one other from the U.S., the Seattle Girls Choir. Those four choirs are launching a North American tour. This is the first time they've ever done this. It starts in the Twin Cities. In fact, it starts in Northfield with a kind of an all-community warm-up party, free concerts. Then they're going to Wayzata to Overland Gallery of Fine Arts, which is in downtown Wayzata. And Overland Gallery is they have the largest collection of Russian and Ukrainian Impressionist art outside the former Soviet Union. So they are hosting a Ukrainian festival, and the Ukrainian choir is going to come and do a free concert there and food tastings. And then they go to some concerts in St. Paul at O'Shaughnessy, and the finale is at Ted Mann Concert Center over on the west bank of the U.
Yeah.
And do
so it's really kind of a Minnesota effort here.
The wonderful thing about that is that it's a big part of America Fest is cultural exchanges between the foreign choirs and the local choirs, and it's a celebration of global understanding, world peace. All the music is focused on peace themes and friendship themes.
Well, and I was struck that not only, as you mentioned, the 5 local choral groups get to participate, but as I understand from some of the material you sent me, there are some local workshops back and forth.
There's a cultural diversity retreat, training sessions on how to understand and appreciate other cultures, folk dancing, American. We're going to teach some of the foreign kids how to do American line dancing, and they're going to teach us how to do folk. Well, you guys might want to. Maybe maybe you guys could come and teach your counterpart. And they're kids from age about 8 to 19.
You guys can handle that.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Well, 3 great events happening here, basically in the Minneapolis area. Ann Hittler-Grover, the marketing source, I want to thank you for coming by and telling us about this. Tonya, thank you. We look forward to seeing you down at the Youth Arts Fest on Block E, downtown Minneapolis. And Lisa, same for you. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back in a moment. Janet's going to join me right after we take a look at the arts question. Well, now please, Janet and I work for weeks getting those artifacts questions ready, and we really want you to call in because it has happened maybe once that nobody called in because maybe it was too tough a question. But, you know, that statue we're asking you to identify is somewhere in Minneapolis, so if you know where it is, you don't have to get the bonus question part. But if you think you know, call in, and I think it's the 9th caller with the correct answer is going to win a fabulous, yes, I want it, a fabulous prize.
And let me tell you what that prize is. It's a T-shirt from the film Little Big League, Hollywood feature film that was made in Minneapolis last summer. It will premiere in theaters on July 1st, so watch for the Metrodome, watch for a few of your favorites. Lots of extras.
Filmed it right here so you can wear the shirt, watch the movie, and people be looking at you saying, I wonder. I just wonder. All cotton, extra large, so it's a great thing. I personally want this, but I can't call in.
And Phill, of course, cannot have it. The person that calls in gets it, not Phill.
Right. So, now, next month, we're very excited about the show, as we always are. Roy Close, who authored the book Critical Conditions for the Center for Arts Criticism here, has agreed to come on. He's going to talk with us about the book and the state of arts criticism here in not only Minneapolis, but the state of Minnesota. So that's going to be a very interesting conversation. As usual, if you've seen anything on the show or anybody on the show you want to know more about, please call the City Cable 34 hotline, 673-2234, and our operators stand by to answer your questions.
Are standing by, that's right.
So please tune in next month. We'll see you that time. And I'm Phill Lindsay.
And I'm Janet Zahn, and thank you for watching.
Bye. Now, this T-shirt.
I know. There's absolutely no way to keep those. It is gorgeous. It would look nice on you. Yeah.